maybe we both find leopard. That would be great. And don't forget, we are completely live, everyone, and it's wonderful to have you with us. If you're watching from all over the world, please don't forget you can send us your questions either via Twitter at #SafariLive, otherwise email us questions@WildEarth.tv, and we will gladly answer your questions, and we love hearing from you, so send comments too. Alright, so let's have a look. Driving around and having a look for any tracks. Perhaps some animals have been walking around during the course of the evening. And who knows what we could bump into. I'm driving along the edge of a drainage line, and if you look just down to the left, it's actually a beautiful view from here. And we've got these wonderful trees very close to us, these large trees. This is a big jackalberry. And these trees love growing on the edge of these riverbanks or these dry riverbeds. And the reason why I'm looking so carefully here is often you find animals or predators like leopard moving through these areas because it's great cover. And with them being ambush predators, if they're able to move through, sneak up on some prey, the chances of them hunting something around it are very, very good. And then also we know leopards like to hoist their kills into trees. So with these big trees around, it will also make it easier for them to hoist their kill to keep out of reach from other predators, like mainly hyena, but hyena and lions. There's a lot of bird calls at the moment. There's a beautiful one I'd like you to hear quickly. Can't see it, but let's listen. Maybe we find it. Can you hear that? It's called an orange-breasted bush shrike. Can you hear that? Beautiful. It sounds like it's going. Beautiful, beautiful bird. I'll try to show it to you quickly. Orange-breasted bushrat, very, very secretive bird, and not always easy to see. They do hide quite well in the thickets. Oh dear, in a second. It really is calling. It's got a beautiful call. I can hear some ground hornbills in the distance, and those are always great to see. Maybe we see them this morning. We did see some yesterday. I saw a few wandering about. Let me show this bird quickly. Beautiful bird, beautiful, beautiful bird. Oh dear. Can't seem to find it. I tell you what, while I'm looking and searching for this bird, here we go. Sometimes these bird books. There we go. So it's that top one over there, that beautiful orange-breasted bushshrike. Very, very lovely call. That's a bird that we can hear at the moment. Alright, we're going to continue our search for some animals. And while I do that, let's head to James and he can say good morning to you.
3. Good morning. Sort of a gay, not really. This, of course, is the real show. For those of you who are watching the pre-show show, I find this slightly confusing. I will get it right as we go along. My name is James Henry. On camera today is VM. That's VM's thumb. It is a coolish 21 degrees Celsius, 69 Fahrenheit. Merciful clouds overhead, blocking out the blinding summer African sun, which we don't mind, of course, in summer because everything is green and verdant and very beautiful indeed. Now, we've come just onto Arathusa here. We're heading down the sort of eastern fringes of Arathusa, and we're going to try and find... Oh, sorry, 1 second. Very loud. We're going to head down towards Red Dam, where I think there was a leopard last night, but we're having a little bit of trouble with the radio communications at the moment, so I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, you are most welcome along on this sunrise, cloudy sunrise safari, and please do talk to us. Hashtag Safari Live, questions at WildEarthTV. Be lovely to hear from you during the course of the next 3 hours or so. Liam, your beard. This is something that we need to show you, everybody. It is very impressive indeed, and this is because Liam is about to go on leave, and over the course of his leave, of his work cycle, of course, his beard gets very impressive, like his ancient ancestor, Paul Kruger. That's called a Safari Live selfie, everybody. Focus was perfect. Marvellous. Good. Now, I haven't been on to Arathusa for the last little while. We'll see what's going on here. Now, one is tempted to think about crossing borders and, there being a slightly different landscape. Of course, Arathusa is very similar to Juma. There's very little difference at all. The vegetation is exactly the same. The underlying geology is exactly the same. It's just like a different area of the same reserve, much like Cheetah Plains. But it's always nice to explore slightly different area. And we'll see if we can't pick up Shadow. Perhaps we'll pick up the Ingrid Dam female, who I haven't met yet. And maybe Tinganana has come back this way, except he was yesterday on Torchwood, where he'd killed something nice to eat. Now, Byron, of course, was showing you the orange-breasted bush shrike, which makes the following noise. And I feel that it would be remiss of me not to suggest that you go to the Safari Live Facebook page and look at the highlights package of Byron making various animal calls. If you're feeling down at all, if there's any kind of sadness in your heart, that will remove it entirely for at least the rest of the day, if not the week. And just keep watching it every time you feel slightly sad. It is very amusing. Byron's being a very good sport about it. And then, if you're feeling especially sad, every time we cross over to Byron, I think it's a good idea that you ask him to make you some sort of animal sound. It's profoundly amusing. Particular highlight being the zebra call that he does. Right, we shall have our first bird of... we won't. Terrified ring-necked doves. Okay, let's head back across to Byron. He's managed to find you a bacon slice for breakfast.
Well, I'm not too sure if I'd be happy to go and try and catch this bacon slice, James. But we've got some warthog. Look at there they go. It's a male running off. There was another one with it. I'm going to try and move forward. Let's see if I can show you both. Lovely to see these little warthogs running around. I do enjoy the warthogs. I think they've got such character. Even though some people might think they're not the best looking, but I think they do add a lot of value. Much like James, actually. I think I could be very wrong. There we go. There off they go. Look at that. The one on the right has lost the tip of its tail. Do you see that? And that can be from a number of things, everyone, but possibly from ticks. Often if the ticks sit around a tail, or they infect it and they get into a wound, then tips of tails can fall off. These are two males, which is interesting. It's interesting to see two males together. And if you look at the face, and that one looking at us now, you can see the two tusks, and then just behind it, it has 4 warts, 2 on each side of its face. And that's one way you can tell that it's a male warthog. The females only have 2 warts. So the males have got those 2 large warts or protrusions out of the face, and then the females only have the 2. And the reason for that is obviously the males do fight a lot more, so they need a bit more protection around the face. And they really are enjoying this bit of green grass which has come out after all the rainfall that we had. Well, I say all, we didn't have a great amount, but we had enough to spark a little bit of growth, and these warthogs are all enjoying that. They do enjoy feeding on grass shoots and roots, so it is really nice to see them out in the open. Rachel from Oregon would like James or myself to give some of the local names to all of you back home, so we can. So perhaps in this area is Shangaan, and we can try our best. James's Shangaan is much better than mine, but have a look. A waterbuck. Just walked into frame, and Dave didn't even see it coming. Look at that. Beautiful male waterbuck. So Rachel, I know the waterbuck, I think the Shangaan name is Piva. P-I-V-V-A. I think that is the correct spelling. Piva. And then warthog, sure, what is warthog again? I always remember Judas. Now the Judas is a tracker I used to work with, and he would give me the names of some of the animals, but I think Judas would sometimes mix a bit of Zulu in with the Shangaan, so it would confuse me. But he always used to call the warthog Hornshi. But I don't think that's the correct name. So we'll have to ask James what the correct name for warthog in Shangaan is, and I'm curious as to what he says. But the rest I do know, Rachel. Lions are Ngala, leopard is Ingwe, elephant is Ndlovu, and buffalo is Inyari. So most of the others I do know, but I can't remember the correct name for warthog. It's a lovely morning because it's still a bit cool, so I'm hoping we do get the predators moving around. No sign of the lions just yet, but what we're going to do is probably head towards Buffelshoek Dam. We're going to check around that area, just see if maybe the lions have moved, because they've been hanging around very close to the drainage line, not far from camp, the Mulwati, I believe it's called. So maybe we're lucky and they've moved off a little bit. They've been hunting buffalo almost daily, so they're possibly looking for some food during the course of the evening. It would be interesting to see where they did move. Let us continue, see what else we can find. Nice to see those warthog, wasn't that great? Often the warthog, I've seen here that the warthog tend to run away quite quickly, generally, but every now and then you get a few that hang around and feed and are very comfortable with us being close to them, which is great. And nice for that waterbuck to make an appearance, to walk straight into our frame. Roger has mentioned that we keep seeing animals with ticks on them, and Roger wants to know, how do we keep them off ourselves? Well, Roger, we are very, very careful when we're walking around in the bush. You can get a spray. It's almost like a mosquito repellent, but it's for ticks, so tick repellent that you can spray on your legs. It's mainly your legs when you're walking around. But generally, if you stay out of long grass and that, Roger, then we we tend to avoid the ticks, but you do still have to be careful. And what we do if we are walking and we do end up walking through the bush, all we do is we check our legs very, very carefully, check ourselves for any ticks, because we can get it. I have had tick bite fever before, which is it's similar to Lyme disease in the States, but not as bad. So it does affect you quite a bit. I mean, you feel terrible. Your body starts aching, get headaches, you get a fever, all your joints are sore, your glands are swollen. It's really, really not very pleasant, and it generally puts you down for about a week. It's not really life-threatening. You can recover from it quite quickly. But the easiest way is you do get antibiotics from a doctor perhaps, and that clears it up within 4 or 5 days. But it makes you very weak and very, very tired, so you end up sleeping a lot. While I'm driving, I'm just having a good look around for any tracks. Oh, there's a large bird that just flew off there. Just want to see if it does land. No, but look off to the left, everyone. We've got some vultures. Oh, that's great. No, there were some vultures that took off in front of us too. We've got the white-backed vultures sitting in this tree not far from us. I think all that's happened here is these vultures have chosen this tree to rest in for the evening. It's a nice open tree, so it's easier for these vultures with their large wingspans to land. And they probably rested here, and all they're doing now is waiting for the day to warm up. And as the day warms up, the hot air begins to rise, and those thermals rise, and those vultures will then start flying around and looking for food. And at the moment, there's been a lot of carcasses around, and we're in the area where we last saw all the carcasses. There were a lot of buffalo carcasses from the lions, so that's why I think these vultures are still in the area. Nice to see some vultures already. Yeah, I think they'll probably hang around here till the day warms up. Now I'm just having a look over here, and this is interesting. I'd like to show it to you. And let me show you a track here quickly, everybody, and just talk about this, and I hope you can see it. Dave, I think maybe from your angle you might get this one over here. Can you see that? Can you see that? There we go, you got that? So everyone, this is a big hippo track, which is very, very interesting. What I'll do is I'll just point it out to you. I always say we need a stick when we are showing tracks. It makes it easier to point it out. So this is the entire track that I've circled. So a rather large hippo, and this is the back pad which comes along there. That's the back pad, the whole back pad. And then we've got one toe over here, the second toe, there is a third toe, and that's the fourth toe. So hippos, obviously, they've got 4 toes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the back pad, and this hippo's been going in this direction. Now, I wouldn't be surprised, everyone, if this is the hippo from Buffelshoek Dam. We're not that far from it, but we're a fair distance. But I think what happens is these hippo need to cover huge distances to look for food. They feed on grass generally, and at the moment there's very little around. So hippos can move up to 10 kilometers in an evening looking for food. And this hippo, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the hippo from Buffelshoek Dam, that it's been walking around looking for food, probably done a big loop around and headed back to the dam. It may still even be out because it is quite cool this morning. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is still wandering about feeding. But there are other hippo around. We saw another one a few days ago, close to a waterhole. It ran off from us, but it was out the waterhole, which was interesting during the day, because they generally feed at night. But in winter, the hippos do bask on the banks and lie out in the sun to warm their bodies up. So they will be a bit more active out of the water during the day in winter. But in summer, they prefer staying in the mud wallows or the water holes so they can protect their sensitive skin. Okay, we're going to continue towards Buffelshoek Dam, and I think James has got something tall he would like to show you.
Well, there is something tall in the background, but Liam just spotted something far more delicate, very close by, that thinks we haven't seen it. Look at the little steenbok. It's just sort of waking up, lying behind his little log. He thinks he's completely invisible, although you can see he is quite suspicious of us, because he is certainly looking this way. Isn't he sweet? And he's not ruminating. Often if they're lying like that, you can see them re-chewing their food. Oh, that's wonderful. Huge ears. All the hair on them, of course, to protect the ears from the dust and whatever else might want to get into them. Giant eyes, and of course it's got big ears and eyes for much the same reason that the big bad wolf had big ears and eyes. You remember the story, Liam? All the better to see and hear you with. Exactly, well done. He's got quite a bad tick infestation there on the eyes. All right, Byron's got something very endangered to show you, so we're going to leave the sleeping steenbok and hand you back to him.
We do indeed have something endangered. Ground hornbills, everyone. Great. I could hear them calling earlier. I'm not sure if you remember that, but I said there's a good chance we could find them, and look, we have found them. They were calling earlier this morning. Fascinating animals. Watch how they forage for food almost. They'll go and sift through foliage and dig up little beetles and even little reptiles if they do find them. There's another one off to the right, just to the right of that one. You might see it. There it goes. And that's a juvenile, everyone. That's a youngster, which is great. So I have seen this group before. There are 4 of them, 2 adults, and then this really young one, and you can see it's still completely dark. Their face is completely dark. It's not like the adults where you have that beautiful red color. And there is another one that we saw that is pinkish. I'm just going to move forward and see if I can get another. Oh, there we go. There's the other one. All spotted Dave. It's one of the adults again. There was another one with these that had a slight pinkish coloration to it. So it had just moved out of that very young phase and is reaching adulthood. See how they dig through the dung? They lift up dung and look for beetles, dung beetles, any insects that might be underneath them. And one of the reasons why they are so endangered is they don't have a very successful breeding strategy when it comes to looking after the young also. And because when the ground hornbills mate and the female lays eggs, she only lays 2 eggs. And usually what happens is the one that is born first, the oldest one, that one will usually get more food, and sometimes the second chick will die, because the first one who gets is a bit older might get more food, and then usually the second chick dies. So that's why they only raise 1 youngster at a time, and it's not a very successful breeding breeding strategy for the ground hornbills and to raise chicks. So it's one of the reasons why they're not very successful. Oh, Lacey has asked, how can we tell the difference between males and females? They're still just walking off to the left, Lacey. I am really not sure, to be honest. I don't know how much sexual dimorphism there is between the ground hornbills, but I'm going to have a look for you quickly. Okay, so I'm going to quickly get my book. So I use a book and an app, which is quite nice, but I do find for beginners especially, people who are starting out birding, you need to have a book, everyone. The apps, I think, are great to have, but I do think for beginner birders, you need to have a book with you. And the reason I say that is because it's a bit easier to find the birds in a book as opposed to an app. And let me show you. Okay, so this is the ground hornbill. Now, you see we've got, here they've got the picture of the male. They don't show a picture of the female. But it's interesting here, you can see the juvenile. That grey, yellow, it says yellow facial skin. That other one was black. So you see again the books, it's a little difficult. They don't do the birds much justice, but it is good to have the book around. But what I'll do now then is I'll then put the book down and I'll get my app out quickly. And now this is interesting. There we go. So if you have a look there, the app has got the immature or the juvenile, also with that slightly yellowish coloration or dark coloration around the face. It's then got a picture of the male and a female. Now, if you look at that, I can't see much of a difference other than it appears as if, and unfortunately you can't zoom on this, but it appears as if that female has got a slightly bluish coloration under her beak. So, you see that over there? All right, but then what I'm going to do is hang on a second. And it's distribution, and that says it's an adult male. I think the adult male has got a slightly thicker beak. I'm not sure. But yeah, well, this is now a female. So I think the female has got that slightly open area around the throat, just beneath the beak, whereas the male has got that red all the way through. Do you see that? So that's the only difference. Very, very small difference, and you'd have to look very carefully, but that would be it. Which is nice to see. Let's just have a look. So this will be a male. Yeah, exactly. So I'm right. So it's exactly that. Under the throat, the female has got a bare little patch, and the male is completely red. So you'd have to look carefully, though. But that is the only difference between the male and female that we can see. And that's another juvenile. You can see that dark coloration or that yellowish coloration around the face. This one that we saw was much, much darker. And after a while, it takes about 6 to 7 years for these birds to reach maturity and adult plumage. And that's what their nests look like. They'll nest in trees, in massive tree stumps. They'll find holes and they'll try and make it a bit bigger, and they'll nest inside there. Very, very interesting birds. So that was lovely. Anyway, thanks. So it's interesting that, I haven't really seen or been able to tell male and female apart. It's not always easy, but it's nice to find these little things that you need to look for. Anna Marie says she feels like she's watching Jurassic Park when she sees the ground hornbills. They do look prehistoric, don't they? They definitely do. So Rachel, getting back to your question about the Shanghai names, and James was just saying that the Shanghai name for the warthog is Horji. So I think Judas was close, so Horji, and that's the Shanghai name for a warthog, Horji. So I wasn't too far off, I was close. Alright, we're still making our way towards Buffelshoek Dam. I'm going to try and get there a little bit quicker now. And let's see what James is up to and whereabout he is.
We've come back to Juma, everybody. That's what we're up to. Haven't seen anything much just yet, but it is a lovely morning out today. And I will just tell you that there is a pack of wild dogs on Buffelshoek, so we're not going to see them unless they turn south. But what it does mean is that they're in the vicinity, they're around the place, so we might be lucky and they might come back here. We're going to now head up to the northern boundary and head east from there towards Buffelshoek Dam and see if those lions, or perhaps hopefully a leopard, hasn't crossed from the north. But without doubt there will be something of interest to see. Now, what I really love about this particular area, if you might pan through here, Via, we're going to have an artistic moment. There we are. This is a glade of, or orchard if you like, of silver cluster leaf trees. And it's a really pretty sort of little forest, and the light is always so pretty through here, no matter what time of the day you come through. There is, however, one time of year when you do not want to be in this vicinity, and that is coming up soon. That is when these silver cluster leaves flower. And many of you will remember from last year my description of the silver cluster leaves flowers as being like the scent of the silver cluster leaves flowers as being like that of rotting feet. And that is indeed what they smell like, probably because they are pollinated by some sort of carrion-devouring moth or beetle. I'm not sure which, but they really do smell utterly disgusting. There are some impala. Oh, goodness, our cup runneth over, Vian. Let me get into a position where we can look at them. I should probably call it in on the radio, you're right, yes. Don't run away, only animal that we've seen today. There it goes. Elegant running. They really are very elegant indeed. The males, of course, all very excited because they're going to be fathers soon, at the end of next month, and possibly before. I'm sure probably around halfway through the month the first impala will come. I said yesterday I wanted to call the first impala on the 7th of November, that being my brother's birthday, but I think that's going to be probably a little bit early, so I'm still going to stick with the 7th. When do you think they're coming? 20th was Viam's, so you can all guess when you think the first impala lamb is going to come. It's not good. There we go. Well done. On we go. And of course they will all be born within 2 weeks of each other. And that is the way of flooding the market with tiny little baby impala lambs, 50% of which will not make it through their first year. Shame. It has been a boom year for the predators this year. They have loved the drought. Those Nkahumas have eaten themselves to a standstill. Karula has eaten herself to a standstill, as have her two little babies. She's killed far more adult impala than I've known her to kill before. I mean, she's obviously a very good huntress, but she's been taking out the adults, and I think it's just because everything's just slightly weakened, slightly less aware on account of the fact that they're hungry. I find myself becoming less aware when I'm hungry, don't you, Viam? Yes, he says. You see, he has to agree with me. Okay, we're back towards quarantine now, and we're going to turn up Gallagher shortcut. Brent guessed that the woodland kingfisher would come back today. Well, he might be right. I suspect he's going to be 2 weeks early. So I'm going to say no woodland kingfisher for at least the next 2 weeks. We have had a little bit more rain than we had last year, and whether the woodland kingfisher from his position in Central Africa has figured that out or not, I don't know. Be interesting to see. So we've had a bit more rain than we'd had by this time last year. And the woodland kingfisher returned last year on the 16th of November. I don't really see why he should come back earlier this year, unless he has some kind of word on the wire that water at Juma has fallen. Let's pop past the Gallagher pan, I think, and just see if those lions aren't there. I suspect they're probably lying still in the same drainage line to the south of the Juma Dam. They do like to spend time there. Some more Impala through there, but they are in thick bush, so we won't worry about that. I must say, for us, the drought was quite fun too, because it meant that there was no vegetation anywhere, which meant that spotting animals was so much easier than it is going to become during the summer months. But summer, apart from the blinding heat, brings with it so many charms, and I was thinking of them yesterday as I was going for a little run. And the smells, certainly to me, are one of the most special things about the summer. Many aromatic flowers and leaves, sort of these annual herbs that pop out of the woodwork, I nearly said, it's not woodwork, that pop out of the ground. The birds, the greenery, especially the cuckoos. I just love the cuckoo sounds. There's the orange-breasted bushshrike, everybody. Black cuckoo in the background. There's an apellis. Not an apellis, sorry, a tawny-flanked prinia. Rattling testicular. Isn't it gorgeous? And of course the white-browed scrub robin. Very, very enthusiastic this morning. Something large through there, but I think it might be a termite mound. No, it's just a shadow. Oh well. Then of course the other thing to look forward to is the flowering of the leopard orchid, of which there are many around here. Maybe we'll have a little bit more success planting one this year. I planted one last year in a knot in a knobthorn tree. Unfortunately, it was discovered by a squirrel who then ate it, which I thought was very, very unpleasant of it. Ooh. Was there a kill here, Vim? Okay, all right. Something's died around here, everyone. There's a stink. Dayton, you're in Maine, and you were wondering about orchids. Look, the leopard orchid is called an orchid, but as far as I'm aware, it's not closely related to any of the, I think you call them bromeliad orchids, which are the orchids that grow largely parasitically on many trees. I think that this is it has a totally different shaped flower. I mean, it just looks like a daisy-shaped flower. And it's not parasitic, it's epiphytic. And that's the only orchid that we get here. There is nothing drinking at the Gallagher pan. So no orchids Yeah, no orchids around here. Byron's at Biffleshoek Dam, everyone, and he has found the great bachelor of Biffleshoek.
We have just got here, and it appears as if we have got the bachelor of Biffleshoek Dam. That's hippo. There we go. Still very happy in this pool of water, this little dam. And as I was saying earlier, those tracks of that hippo we saw very possibly could have been this hippo, and moved around looking for food during the course of the evening, and has now returned to rest in the water for the duration of the day. And we did hear that we got that update that James also mentioned. There's wild dogs on Biffleshoek at the moment, so just north of us, and it would be wonderful if they decide to turn and come south. That's one of the other reasons why I thought I'd shoot into this area, just see if they do move, if they do come through. Just having a look, there's some birds flying around here. Let's see what we can see. Can hear a lot of them, like James has mentioned that that morning chorus. There's a black-headed oriole calling around here too somewhere. Diedrich's cuckoo. My bird calls are terrible. But there's Diedrich cuckoo calling. I'd love to see one. And there's black-headed oriole calling behind us. But a lot of these birds, you can hear them, but you'd think to spot them it would be easy, but it's not. They hide in the trees, and it's very difficult at times. Even a bird like the black-headed oriole, which has got that bright yellow and the black head, but they're just very, very difficult to see. Hang on. Oh, wait, we've got a very interesting bird, everyone. Oh, what is this? I just want to show you at the top of that tree. Dave, can you see that? Let me just turn around a little bit. Can you see top right-hand side of the tree? There we go. What have we got here? Everyone, I think this is a female Diedrich's cuckoo. Let me just double check for you quickly, but I think I am right. I'm going to use my book and my app on this one quickly. But I'm almost certain it is a female Diedrich cuckoo. Wouldn't that be great? We've been looking for them. We've struggled to find them. It is indeed. It is indeed. Look at that, isn't that great? Well, for those viewers who are keen birders, it was a quick view, but we got to see our Diedrich's cuckoo. Wasn't that great? I'm just going to show you in the book quickly. It's down here at the bottom. This one off to the right. And you can see the female. The book again doesn't do it any justice, but not nearly as colorful as the male. Male's got a lot more green and white in it, whereas the female is almost buff colored underneath, a little brownish color, bit of green in the wings. Again, the light isn't great this morning, so it's difficult to see the colors on those birds. Give me a second, I'm going to show you with the app too. Just going to put the book down. Let me show. This is a beautiful picture of the female Diedrich's cuckoo. And that's exactly what we saw. You could see that brown coloration under the throat and the barring, and that very sharp, slightly curved beak. Look at that. Wow, so we got to see a Diedrich cuckoo. I'm very happy because that's the first one I've seen this season. And we hear them all the time, but they are so difficult to see. But we got to find it, so that's wonderful. Diedrich cuckoo, lovely. So I'm sure some of the birders are excited, because I know a few of you wanted to see cuckoos. So maybe that's another one for your list. All right, James has got some Impala. I wonder if he's doing his territorial display for them.
Doesn't want to do a territorial display, everybody, around such a sensitive sighting. We've got a really beautiful little scene going on here, a fairly large herd of nyalas. And they are just feeding through the drainage line here. That one, of course, is having milk for breakfast, which is very nice if you're a baby nyala. But slightly on the negative side of the sighting, the lead cow who walked through here and off towards the Galago Pan was, as VM described her, looking a little mangy. And I have to agree with him. Then we also saw a waterbuck that was showing those kind of distinctive patches or hairless patches of grey skin. And we wondered if she also doesn't have mange. Now, we've spoken a lot about mange. It's not really a theme you want to bang on about for too long, given that it doesn't have very nice implications. But I think there's a bit of an outbreak. Well, I mean, we know there's an outbreak. There has been with the lions. And I think the animals that are nutritionally compromised are really going to struggle going forward. And I think we're going to see it a little bit more. So please do prepare yourselves. Now, it is obviously completely impossible for all animals in an open system like this to be treated for mange. So it does mean that if there is an outbreak, and it sort of kind of gets into most of the populations of animals, well, then it is going to be difficult for us to watch. But that is just the way of things. I mean, certainly none of them look particularly skinny, but they haven't put on a huge amount of condition yet as a result of the sort of new green leaves coming out. They're not looking bad, but I have to say I've seen nyala that look in better condition than these ones. You see the fur there, just not quite sort of, not quite as shiny and lustrous as it might be. See there on the neck? Maybe it's just the fact that the winter coat is still falling off, although, no, it's too late for that now. I mean, we're sitting in Hallows Eve today. Hello, Wilma. You say, what were the little bubbles on the one nyala's head? I have to confess I wasn't looking at them. They were probably little horns. Oh, those ones there. It's a young male who's got horns. There we go. They're just the little buds of the horns coming up. There we go. Just getting these horns. Now, hang on a second. Yeah, no, that's exactly what's going on there. They're such beautiful antelope, aren't they? And they're being very confiding for us. They're not running away, which is very nice of them. There, look at that. That's definitely, well, I say that's definitely. There's nothing as definite as a guide in the Sabi sand. We're very good at making very definite pronouncements on things. But that certainly looks like a mange to me. But the condition of the rest of the nyala looks pretty good. I wonder also if it doesn't affect herbivores slightly less than the carnivores. And our beard, I think that you've hit the nail on the head here when you say that, or you've asked the question, does mange get worse in a drought? I haven't read anything about that. It's certainly something that I would agree with, though. I would imagine that mange probably is much worse in a drought year, either because animals are compromised immune-wise because they haven't had enough to eat, but that wouldn't hold true for the lions. Certainly not the Nguhumas. They've eaten a huge amount lately. And, of course, remember when we saw that Birmingham boy who had the first real case that we saw, that he scratched his whole belly raw of any kind of hair? That must have been when? That was before the winter time, but it was at the end of a very poor rainy season, so maybe. But I think that the fact that the herbivores are getting it now, the effect on them will be made much worse by the fact that they haven't eaten enough. But yeah, I think for some reason the mite that causes the sarcoptic mange has probably managed to survive better in the drought than it might have otherwise. I don't know why that should be the case, but that's the only reason I can think that it should be here at this time of the year now. Then there are some waterbuck the other side. There is Mrs. Mangy Waterbuck. And there you can see the hips showing. I think she's quite old too. She's also just swallowing what she's been chewing for the second time. There are 3 or 4 of them in there. One of them's gone up the bank. It's a bull, obviously. He looks okay. Some gaps in his fur, especially on the withers there around the shoulders. Righty, we're going to continue from here. We haven't got very far from where you last saw us, so let's head back across to Byron, who's got, well, I think the animal that most closely resembles him, really.
Thank you, James. We've got the buffalo. We've got a small little group of buffalo here. It looks like a few females. There is a younger male behind us, but so they've just moved across the main road. What I'm doing is I'm actually on the Buffelshoek cut line at the moment, and I'd like to hang around this area because we've got those reports of the wild dog pack they're north of our boundary, however, north of Juma, but wild dog cover huge distances very, very quickly. And we've seen in the past, if they do come through, they come through these areas very quickly, and we often get a glimpse of them. So you never know. Maybe we're lucky and they do come through. I'm not going to hold my breath, though, but we are going to take a chance, and we are going to see if we can show you some wild dog. It would be fantastic to see them. So I'm hoping. Let's see what happens. But for the meantime, it's nice to see these buffalo, and it looks like these ones haven't been harassed by the lions during the course of the evening for a change. Don't see any sign of lions just yet. They're possibly still in the drainage lines close to camp. I'm just going to move forward for you a little bit. There's a nice view of that group all standing together. You can see there's all younger buffalo and females. That middle section of their horn, or it's known as the boss, that's much thinner on the females. We'll see if we can find you a big male, and we'll show you. And everyone, I think we are in luck. It sounds like Herbert managed to find the lions. I wonder how close James is. Perhaps James can head towards the lions. And while James heads towards the lions, I can stay in this area and just see if there are any sign of these wild dogs coming through. So I'm not too sure if James is possibly a bit closer. Maybe he can chat to Herbert and then find out, and we'll give you an update on that shortly. That'll be great. So I wonder where he found them. Like I said, I thought they're possibly in one of the drainage lines close to camp. So it'll be interesting to find out if they are around there. Let's carry on a bit and just see. We're very close to the Cheetah cut line, which is the eastern cut line of Juma. And these wild dogs were in this area, so just north of the boundary. We did get an update from some of the other guides out here. Oh, just some interesting birds again, everyone. Up in the top of this tree, we have the wattled starlings. They are nomadic. They don't migrate, but they are nomadic, so they do have seasonal movements within southern Africa. And they've all started to return into this area now. So it's great to see these wattled starlings. Lovely to see them. All right, James has got a larger animal that he'd like to show you.
Yes, it is a large animal, everybody, but not the largest version of this animal. This is a young bull elephant, and he is, well, he's just feeding on some Sisyphus, finding bits and pieces to eat, and much like many of his cohorts, he's putting on condition rather quickly after the drought. I would say that this elephant stands about 8 feet at the shoulder. So almost as tall as Brian. And of course, it's nonsense. Brian is not 8 foot tall, but about 1.5 feet taller than Brian. And he will get a lot bigger in his years. Probably weighs in at about, I'd say, what should we say, 3,500 kilograms or so, which is about 8,000 pounds. Hello, Sandy in British Columbia, and thank you very much for your concern, not for this elephant, of course, but for Brian. Brian had a migraine yesterday, everybody, and if you've ever had a migraine, you will know that it is an extremely debilitating thing to have. He is fine. The blinding headache didn't last for too long, about 6 hours, and after that, he was just left with that awful kind of aftermath. I don't know if you've ever had a migraine, everyone. If you haven't, you can't really understand it, but if you have, you will know exactly what I mean when I say you cough and it feels like your brain is going to explode out of your ears, and that's basically how he felt for most of yesterday, but he's okay now. So thank you very much, Sandy, for your concern for our friend Brian and his thumb. The thumb didn't have a migraine. Now, word on the wire, everybody. Well, hang on, I'll tell you the word on the wire shortly, because this elephant is coming towards us. Now, this is the best, because these young elephant bulls are not exactly, well, they're curious. They like to spend time with us. They get bored. And you can have a really good time if you're patient with them. He actually hasn't put on that much condition. He's still looking very skinny at the back. And there's a wonderful Afrikaans term for this, many words in Afrikaans which have no real English equivalents that are really nice sort of descriptors. And I'll say it and then Willem will scoff at my accent, but basically the term skraal, which means skinny or bony. And it's a wonderful, wonderful term to describe an animal that's just looking like he needs a good feed. How's my pronunciation there, Willem?
Oh, that was good.
Oh, good. Willem says it was okay, everyone. Skraal. Now, this bull is on his own, and a bull of his age, he's probably, I wouldn't say much more than 18, maybe he's about 20. and often they're with other bulls. And Melinda, you want to know when they start boxing each other for females. They don't box with each other for females by default. They will fight if they are two must bulls of roughly the same age and size, and they come across an estrus female. Then they can often have a very vicious fight. But that only happens if they're both around an estrus female that they want to mate with. Then they do play fight. They can have quite serious fights over sort of establishing a dominance hierarchy. That normally happens in a group of young bulls, like this chap would normally be part of. And I suspect around here, within sort of earshot, if you like, but elephant earshot, which is a lot further than human earshot, there are probably a few other bulls or even a herd, and he can probably hear the deep rumblings that they're making around here as we speak, which we wouldn't be able to hear. They're beneath our ability to hear. I'm just going to get hold of Herbert, everybody. Herbert has found the lions, and they're not far from here. I'm just quickly going to talk to him while we look at this. I'm just going to tell Herbie. Herbie, I am 2 minutes out. You can just hear Herbert talking now.
I'll keep you posted.
Okay, copy. I'm coming now. All right, everybody, let's go. Herbert has found the lions, and I think they're moving, which, of course, for our lions at this time of this juncture is very unusual. So let's get to them while they're moving. We're going to head towards Central Roads, just down here. It's Mvubu over here. Goodbye, Mr. Elephant. Have a lovely day. I'm very pleased to have met you this morning. Turn Herbert up slightly on the radio. Okay, Herbie, I'm on Mvubu now. Close to Juma Dam. Confirm I must just come straight down Central. You can hear Herbert. There he is.
Stand by there by the junction. I'm still driving to Central to see for relocate.
Okay, copy. We have Impala running hither and yon. This is the worst patch of road on Juma. There, we're over it now. We were pretty close. Those lions have hardly moved from where they were yesterday. Still in the drainage where I thought they might be. That's not because I'm good at predicting. Oh dear.
The best approach should be from Central.
There we are. Copy, I'm coming on to Central now, Herbs. These lions have been very predictable of late, though. Now, there's the dam off to the right-hand side. And the drainage line that they've been sort of concentrating their efforts in just off down towards, or we're driving parallel with it now. Now Herbie will be just in here, I think. Alright, while we're looking for these lions, let's head back across to Byron and find out how his waiting game for the dogs is going.
Some of them are approaching the sightings, so that's why they run.
So it's not going very well, James. I just got another update from one of the other guides. It sounds like those wild dogs have moved deeper into Torchwood, which is just east of our boundary. So it doesn't sound like they're heading in this direction at all. Which is okay, you never know, they could decide later this afternoon perhaps to start moving this way. So we'll keep our eyes open and our ears to the ground, and you never know, we might still get to see wild dog in the next day or two, if they are around. But let's see what else we can find. It's exciting. Herbert's managed to find the lions, so James is trying to work out exactly where they are so we can get to see them. Oh. I saw something small run here. Hang on a second. Looked like a little dwarf mongoose, everyone. Let's see if it comes out. It was very, very quick. And usually they are in groups, large family groups. So I'm surprised I can't see any others just yet. No, there we go. Well spotted, Dave. Here goes a little dwarf mongoose. But look how well they can disappear into the foliage. There goes another one. Oh, there we go. Wonderful. Little dwarf mongoose. Well done, Dave. There's another one there. There's a squirrel. A squirrel that wants to be a mongoose, perhaps. So there are quite a few dwarf mongoose running around here. There we go, just off to the left, right here at the bottom. There we go, there it goes. Very, very cute, aren't they? Wonderful little mongoose. And that's the smallest mongoose species we have in Africa. These little dwarf mongoose. Wow, look how agile they are moving through the ground, or through the little sticks and branches on the ground. It's amazing. So they are very gregarious, always in large groups, large family groups. Dwarf mongoose you can possibly get in group sizes of up to 10 to 20 of them. The other species of mongoose we get out here, which are very gregarious, are the banded mongoose. And the banded mongoose, I've seen groups of up to 30 or 40 of them together. They're much larger and they've got stripes over the back. And but these little dwarf mongoose are very, very cute. And they do get a little bit more curious than the other mongoose. Sometimes they'll come and have a look at you and they'll stick their heads out of a pushed over log that they've possibly wandered into, and they'll come and have a look and then return back in again, or out of a termite mound. Often they will use a termite mound or abandoned termite mound. So the interesting bird here, what was that? Let me just move forward, everyone, just so I can see. What was that? The babblers. Oh no, wait, what is that? Hang on. Top of the tree. Is that not a... Oh wow, everybody, a honey guide. Can you see that at the top of the tree? A greater honey guide. Oh, fantastic. Don't know when last I saw this bird. And it has got... Oh, I thought I heard him. Sneaky little honey guide. And I've got some great stories for you with this bird. Just going to try to find it for you. And this is the one that we saw. There we go. The greater honey guide. Look here, right to the top corner of the page. That was it, with that slightly reddish beak, pink bill, a bit of white and the black. And it's still calling. It's flying in front of us. Now, the honey guide. Oh, this is wonderful. Now, I've got such great stories about them. And let me just go forward again, try to show you it, because it is still just ahead of us, up at the top of this tree. There he goes. Just hold on a second for me. Somebody's just trying to get hold of me on the radio. Go ahead, go ahead. Let's just see. I don't know where that bird has gone now. Copy that, Lex. I'll do that. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so that honey guide seems to have moved off. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start driving towards Cheetah cut line. It sounds like the wild dogs have been moving around a bit, and I'm not too sure. There's no sign of them heading in this direction just yet, but they have split up and they're running all over. We might still get a glimpse of them, so I'm going to head towards that area. But in the meantime, let me chat about that honey guide. That is really, really a wonderful bird to see. And one of the stories I remember, and Judas, my friend and tracker that I used to work with, he used to tell me wonderful stories about honey guides and a lot of the belief with the Shangaan culture. And this actually does happen. It can happen if you follow a honey guide. They've got this wonderful call, and that call that it was doing over there, it wants you to actually get out and follow it. And these birds do in fact lead you to beehives. So when you get there, you'll usually find the honey, and honey badgers do follow honey guides. And these honey guides will lead you to the beehive, or to the nest where the bees are. And what happens is the honey badger will break open the tree bark or the stump where the bees are, and then by doing that the bird is able to feed on some of the bees and some of the honey, and the honey badger gets the honey. But Judas would tell me the story, and the belief is that if the honey guide led you to the honey, you'd always have to break it open, take some honey for yourself, but you would have to leave honey out for the bird to say thank you that it led you to that honey. Because he said often if you didn't do that, the honey guide would remember, and it would come and take you and lure you to what you thought was a beehive, but it would in fact lure you towards a snake hole where there'd probably be a black mamba waiting. So he said, whatever you do, if you follow a honey guide and you get to some honey, leave some honey for the bird, and it will then be thankful and lead you to honey again the next time. But they've got a wonderful call, and I know my bird calls aren't great, but it sounds like they are saying, Victor, 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 Victor. That's the greater honey guide call, and then it also does that call. So while I head towards Cheetah cut line, James has managed to find those lions.
I don't know where Byron got that information from. No lions here, everybody, just that leopard orchid, which of course has not flowered yet. There it is. Apparently very sweet tasting, you'll read. Then when you taste them, you realize that they're not sweet tasting in the slightest. Oh goodness, Wiem, what's that over there? It's a lion. We are with the lions. Herbert found them, and they are in exactly the same place that they were the last time I saw them at this time yesterday. There's a pan off to the right-hand side. That's one of the males, Tinyo, and he, of course, is the consort of one of the females. The rest of the pride is over there. And they're all lying down next to this water where they have been for the last 24 hours or so. This is not a pride of lions that likes to overexert itself by any stretch of the imagination. Yes, they like to have a very relaxing time of it. Now we'll try and get a little bit closer to those cubs, assess their physical condition, find out if they are recovering from their mange or if it is getting worse. They remain, to my mind, by far the cutest animals out here in the wild. Clay, we don't know the answer to your question, to be honest. You've said, what causes a mange breakout? How does it thrive? Well, it is spread from one animal to the other by direct contact. And it's caused by a little mite that digs into the skin, and it's the same mite that causes this human skin condition called scabies, which is a very sort of unpleasant situation where, if you're a human being with scabies, you get these kind of extremely crusty, itchy pieces of skin, and the same thing happens to the lions, and eventually it can actually kill them. But it's by no means a death sentence. Why it's out here now and why it has, why there's an outbreak now, I think it's too much of a coincidence to say that, there's a drought at the same time and it's purely coincidence. I think there's something to do with the drought, but I don't know exactly why it should be the case. Right, that fellow, oh, there we go, is now asleep. That's quite a nice shot, that. Darlene, a very good question from you. You want to know how mange goes about killing an animal. Well, again, it's difficult to say. I think what happens in young and infirm animals is that they eventually scratch all the hair off themselves. And when that happens, they become cold, they become weaker, it becomes difficult for them to move around and feed because they're so obsessed by this tremendous skin irritation, and I think that eventually probably creates secondary infections. I don't know that the mite itself actually would ever kill an animal, but I think it probably creates a situation of weakness, immune suppression, and then secondary infections and other parasites will eventually kill the animal. I think that's how it works. There's another female in there. Let's try and move around a little bit and see if we can't get a slightly better view as the red-chested cuckoo calls in the background. And yes, Dayton, I think that you've made another good guess. You say, is it possible for an animal to contract mange or a predator to contract mange from eating an infected prey species? I think yes, absolutely that's possible. I don't see why it wouldn't be. I don't know where the Birmingham boy got it from. We'll just have a quick look here. I don't know where that original Birmingham boy got his mange from, but I think he's the one that's given it to everyone else. And we think it was Tino, but we stand to correction there. So it may have been this fellow himself that we're looking at. He doesn't look particularly concerned about it, does he, Viam? No. He looks particularly disinterested, in fact. That is a picture of absolute blissful peace, everybody. And then just to the right-hand side of him, we could just see the top of the female's body. And he will only move when she moves. The only reason he actually sat up was because she sort of started to move around a little. Now let's see if we can see the rest of the pride. And try not to fall into this pan as we go past. There we go, we've made it. Now, I don't know how long we're going to spend with these chaps. It very much will depend on you, everybody, but I think if they're not doing too much, then we probably won't sit here for too long. But here in the drainage are 3 little cubs. Let's try and assess their condition. There we go. 1, 2, 3. There, that slightly worrying scratching is beginning on a seemingly unaffected one. And always behind the elbow to start with. one looks all right. Doesn't seem to have any patches. And then what we need to check is that one there, because I think that one, if there is a lion that is, if there is a cub amongst this group that's suffering a little, it's probably this one. No, maybe not. Maybe just having a bit of a clean. No, that's definitely a mangy foot. Yeah. This is a worrying, I must say, everybody. Like I said yesterday, not a death sentence necessarily. They are eating very well, so they have the best possible chance of surviving this. Hello, Leilani in California. You're wondering at what point these little lions will become adults. She's looking there at the red-chested cuckoo. They become adults, Leilani, when they are, well, I suppose the females reach sexual maturity at about 2.5 years, and they can mate from then and have cubs. There's the bird, the red-chested cuckoo. And the males, well, yeah, that's a wonderful picture of a red-chested cuckoo. Oh, that's wonderful. Leilani, the males reach sexual maturity a bit later, about 3.5, but they won't mate until they're probably 6 normally, when they take over a pride. But they'd be considered adults from 3.5, or 3 even. Isn't that cool? Now that one, if I'm not mistaken, this bird parasitizes starlings. I'm just going to quickly check that. Which means it'll be looking for Birchall starlings, I think, probably specifically, which are roughly the same size. Oh, interesting. It says primarily live a Cape robin chat, but you don't get the Cape robin here. But about 15 other species. I'll just check what those are. Cape robin chat. Well, there are no Cape robin chats here, so here we go. Hosts: thrushes, robins, wagtails, white-throated robin, bearded scrub robin. It could easily be, I'm just reading this, of course, from my bird app. It probably then is the white-browed scrub robin that red-chested cuckoo is going to parasitize. No starlings, interestingly. A new scar. Yes, look at that. That's a scratch. That's interesting. A new scratch. Quite possibly from the male. There was quite a lot of conflict yesterday. Let's see if he doesn't get up and follow her. Quite a lot of argy-bargy there was yesterday going on. Every time one of the males came near one of the other males, he got very upset. But I don't see the other male here. Still the cuckoo calls. I believe Taylor tried desperately to get that cuckoo on screen yesterday. But they are very elusive. Yeah, that licking is definitely goes well beyond cleaning, I'm afraid. That is now full-blown scratching as far as I'm concerned. Shame. Right, let's move around there a little bit. Nia, you're in Illinois and wondering about FIV, feline immunovirus, which is much the same as human immunovirus, but for cats. And you're also wondering about TB and how much there is around of each disease. FIV, I've heard, is not quite as dire as the situation is with the human immunovirus, so it doesn't seem to do quite as much damage, although my mother's house cat died of FIV. She was very upset. But tuberculosis, you'll probably find, especially given the amount of buffalo that these lions eat, I think you'll find that TB is rife amongst them. But because they are not immune compromised at the moment with things like FIV, they are actually okay. You'll find it doesn't express and doesn't cause a problem unless they don't eat enough, unless they really struggle to find sufficient to eat. Now, we're quite close to these lions. There's one just behind the bush here, so I need to be a little bit careful. We'll just stop here for a while and let her get used to us. Not that she's likely to react at all, but if I do go any further forward, I'm going to make a loud crunching noise. Still trying to suckle, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 lionesses. So the other male and the other female, look at that, probably away with each other. You might just be able to hear the little cub calling. Isn't that a ridiculous sleeping position? That's the chin spot batis calling. She is very comfortable having a bit of a suckle. Can we get in close on the foot on the tree there, then? No, not really, because I haven't parked you properly. Hello, Maggie. We're watching that lioness with her claws stuck in the tree, and you're wondering if they can climb trees. They're highly adept tree climbers, Maggie. They're able to climb trees very well, not quite as elegantly as leopards, but that's just a function of the fact that they're much heavier. But they can climb. I've seen them sleeping in trees the same way that leopards do. They don't do it as often. Remember, a leopard spends most of its time in a tree, A, for security, and B, to stash its kills. And there's no real reason for a lion to do either, because very little is going to try and steal a kill from a lion. And also, they just are very confident they don't need to worry about anything attacking them. So I don't think that there's any kind of need for them to climb as much as leopards, and so that's why they don't. Yeah, all of these cubs are now looking a bit mangy. Shame. Anyway, that's nature.